Hello, my name is Sherrod Halliburton, and I am President and CEO of Manatee Community Federal Credit Union. And I'd like to welcome you to The Truth About Credit, a show where we like to take a deep dive and explore information around credit, debunk myths about credit, and just demystify credit. And I'm thrilled to have Tina Paradises back with us again. Really enjoyed you when you were here with us before, Tina. And I understand that you have a number of new questions just burning that you want to get tackled. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, well, I want to share a story with you about credit.
Okay.
When I was in college many years ago, I won't tell you the age when, pre-cell phone time periods, pre-texting periods.
Oh my.
So I'm walking through the college lobby, and they had tables set up, and a gentleman came up to me and he goes, "I'd like to give you $1,500. You get
like
a T-shirt.
To give you $1,500.
I want to give you $1,500.
Okay,
All you have to do is fill out this little form here, and then we're going to give you this T-shirt that has, the bank name on it, which I can't even remember what it was at the time." And I'm like, okay, this sounds awesome. I'm 18. I have no clue about credit. I rush back to the dorm. I stand in line for the payphone because put the quarter in, do the collect call to my dad. No texting back then. And I'm like, Dad, I'm really excited. This guy gave me $1,500. I'm like clueless. And he's like, oh, Tina, we need to talk. And really the biggest thing he said to me, because he explained, of course, it's not money that they're giving you. It's money that you're going to be borrowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he says, the most important thing I can emphasize to you is pay it off every month. Because, he didn't go into the details about late payments or credit bureau or interest rates. He's just like, do not carry a balance. Okay, so this is ingrained in my head, and I followed that, and it was awesome advice. And honestly, I don't think I've ever carried a balance on a credit card. It was pretty ingrained.
Good for you.
But now I'm a single mom, and I've got the two kids, the two teenagers. One's in college, and the other is in high school. And I decided that, and you and I talked about it before I did it, actually, it was authorized user.
Okay.
And now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm thinking, okay, you really have to trust both parties. The parent needs to be trustworthy and make sure the payments are on time, and I'm sure if you can expand on that, I'd love you to tell me more about that.
Okay.
And then also, I have to trust my kids that they're not going to go out and rack the balance all up and, reach the credit limit kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to see, what can you teach me about the authorized user on the account? What does it mean?
Okay.
Because it was scary for me to do that.
Yeah, trust is scary. Trust is really scary. The authorized user, what Tina has talked about is a strategy that parents sometimes use to teach their kids responsibility as it relates to credit, and at the same time to build their credit score. Because with that authorized user account, she gets a credit card, her children get credit cards in their names,
Yes.
and the payment history is reported on Tina, the mother's credit report, as well as the two children's credit reports. So, as Tina mentioned, if you're paying as agreed, it's a wonderful thing. It's helping your credit, it's giving your kids access to a credit building tool, it's giving them access to credit, and for your kids, it's, like we said, giving them access to credit. In addition to that, is growing their credit score. This may be the only item on their credit report. So if that is managed responsibly, they get access and their credit score grows. Let's say that the kids go out and they spend more money than you're able to pay back on a monthly basis. That could happen. Well, if you're not able to pay the balance off on a regular basis and they max the credit card out, well, their use of the credit card, they will get the benefit of seeing their credit score grow because of payment history, but maxing out the only credit card they have will have a negative impact on their credit score. So your attempt to help them can end up hurting them to some extent if they max out the only instrument of credit that you make available to them, because their credit score is going to be discerned based on 35% is going to be the payment history, but 30% is going to be how much of that credit instrument they use. So if it's only $500 and they keep it maxed out at $500 and you aren't paying off the balance in full, well, they're going to have a credit score, but it's going to be depressed because of the fact that they are maxing out the credit
By
card.
not making payments on it, like if I'm paying it off every month, is that a negative impact on their credit score?
No,
or-
if you're
paying
paying
the
it
balance.
off, if you're paying the balance off every month, that is the best possible scenario. What you've done is they're using a credit, so they'll get the benefit of using credit. If someone has a credit card and they never use that credit card, they don't get the benefit of payment history on that credit card. So in this example, your kid gets the benefit of use of the card, and then because you are paying the balance off in full, they get the benefit of always having a low or zero balance on the credit card. So that is the best possible scenario to protect you, to protect them, and to grow their credit score. But you hit on a number of important things. If a parent is going to do this, they need to know that their kid is responsible enough to use the credit card discerningly, and that parent needs to pay the bills as agreed. I've had instances in which parents have done just the opposite. They have used their children to gain access to credit, and they've not paid that credit as agreed. And these
Now the child is-
individuals find themselves with bad credit before they even have the first credit account that they open up themselves. So I think it's admirable what you're looking to do with your children. It allows them in a supported environment to learn about credit, and it allows them to start growing their credit, and they start off on the right path. Unfortunately, we've seen too many people who engage us. I used to work at the credit bureau. I worked for the credit bureau for 5 years, and I've been president of financial institution now for about 5 years as well. And so you see a lot of different scenarios to where people have allowed credit to impact their lives positively, as well as credit impact their lives negatively. And when children start off and make mistakes, sometimes it's very difficult to get them on the same path. We have members now that they're not children, started off as children with credit, making mistakes, and some of them are 40, 50, 60, and they've never quite been able to right the ship completely. Because as they were trying to get their act together, they're having to pay deposits, they're having to pay high interest rates, that leads to more defaults. So bad decisions and bad usages of credit will give you access to, will either eliminate your access to credit or gain you access to credit at unattractive rates, which sometimes people default because the payments are just too high. The interest rate is high, the payments are too high, they have some sort of upset in their professional or personal lives, and now the whole house of cards collapses. So it's important that we manage our finances and be very discriminating about our use of credit. Use it when we need it. Use it to grow our financial capacity. A little saying that I like to say is there are a couple different ways to use credit. You can use credit just to get, or you can use credit as a tool to build your financial capacity. So what we like to do is to educate our members on how to use credit in a way that not only gives them what they want, but builds their financial capacity and gives them access to a brighter future. So that's what we hope to achieve with credit. And I just think it's admirable that you're doing this with your children.
I do have a question though, regarding the authorized user. So I'm very fortunate. My daughter will text me, "Mom, can I get this Starbucks for $4?" You know, I'm like,
You are fortunate.
so, But say there's a time where, for other viewers, that maybe their child's not as trustworthy with the card and they're abusing it, and now you want to remove them from as an authorized user, or maybe my financial situation will change and I can't afford to pay the credit cards off, and I want to make sure that my behavior doesn't impact theirs, and because I'm the one that's responsible for paying the credit card. So if I suddenly take them off, how does that look for their credit? And can I take them off before the card tanks if it gets to that?
As an authorized user, yes. If you have them on an account jointly, it gets a little more complicated.
Okay. Okay.
With a joint account, you would have to close the account and open up a individual account. With an authorized user account, you can take them off. That authorized user account will report up until the moment that you took them off. So it will have positive impact the previous payment history, but it will not have positive impact in going forward. So you won't see new payments. It won't be included in your new available credit. It won't be used to calculate your new capacity of moving forward. So your children will almost immediately see an impact in their credit score when you take them off as an authorized user. And one of the things we kind of talked about
You mean
is...
in a negative way?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. In that it will no longer, the
stop.
authorized user...
history will stop.
Exactly. The whole point of the authorized user approach was to build their credit score over time. And when you eliminate that, all they have is the benefit of what happened prior to.
Okay.
They will no longer get the benefit of your positive payments moving forward. So,
Hopefully.
but that's something you can
Hopefully
do.
it'll stay positive.
Yeah.
But this leads me to another question.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on about identity theft, and I always have this fear that somebody stole my kid's identity and they're open up credit cards everywhere, and I don't want them to discover this later in life when they go to apply for something, and all of a sudden.
Okay.
So, pulling a credit bureau on a minor, is that good? Is that a good idea or no?
Well,
Just to check to make sure everything's good.
yes, and there are online access. There is online access for viewing your credit report. Each of the credit reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, give you the ability to view a copy of your credit report online or order a copy of your
And
credit
it's
report.
One free, one a year, is it still?
It's one free a year through the variety of different credit reporting agencies, and there are secondary credit scoring software out there, the Credit Karmas, the
Right.
Credit Sesames.
But for a minor, you wouldn't set that up, right?
No,
Somebody who's
no.
16
If they don't have an account, there's nothing out there.
Right. Well,
So once they have an account,
I'd want to make sure
once they have an
there's-
account, you can utilize the same tools to view their credit report and credit score that you would an adult. So you can view them on Credit Karma, you can view them on Credit Sesame, you can view them on Savvy Money, you can download copies of the Equifax report, download copies at onefreecreditreport.com. Once they've established credit, it's just like an adult. Anywhere you could view your credit report, you can view their credit report. And if you're viewing your credit report in different places, because your Equifax report won't look exactly like the Experian or the TransUnion. Those reports will only contain information that's presented to them by your creditors. All your creditors don't necessarily report all of your credit information to all three credit bureaus.
Really?
Yes. When you view a copy of your credit report, view a copy of your credit report from each different credit reporting agency, and you'll see clearly all the accounts that are listed. And they should be similar, but sometimes you can have a creditor that may only report to two or only may report to one. I lived in the Midwest for a number of years, and in the Midwest, TransUnion was the dominant credit reporting agency. Every creditor reported to TransUnion. Some creditors reported to Experian, a lot of creditors reported to Equifax. If you downloaded a copy of the TransUnion credit report, it usually had more trait lines than the others. Now, that was 25, almost 30 years ago. Today, the three dominant credit reporting agencies, they tend to look more similar because people now report to all three. They don't always, and that's why you will occasionally see a little difference in the score. And when you see a difference in the score and the information, it's because this particular creditor didn't report to this particular credit reporting agency. And credit reporting agencies, they're just clearinghouses. All they do is collect information from creditors and compile that information on a report and present it to you. So it's also important that you always monitor those credit reports because, like you said, someone steals your child identity or some other mistake that's being reported on your credit report. And those mistakes, sometimes they take a little time to get them fixed. So monitoring your credit report and monitoring your children's credit report is very important. And once you've established credit for them, I would use the same avenues I use to monitor my information. I will use those same avenues to monitor their information.
So I know we probably don't have time for my next question because it probably could be lengthy, but just any advice to parents who are doing the authorized user with their kids? Like, how do you sit down with somebody who's a teenager and, explain to them the importance of, what they're charging and the impact? I mean, this just isn't money falling out of the sky that you get to spend, which is what I literally thought when I was 18, which is crazy. I did get the college degree, by the way. I'm not that dumb. I figured it out.
But think about the conversation you had with your father.
Yeah.
Your father made it very clear. He made it very clear it wasn't free money.
Yeah.
He made it very clear.
You still
and he made
owe
it very
money.
clear that any action you take, you're going to be responsible for it. Those are the most important considerations. If you're talking about a minor, you can control that by giving them access to yours. When they become an adult, all you can do is guide them. And what generally happens is if you've educated them, they don't know any better. If you've educated them, they tend to follow along the steps that you've
You lead by example,
that you've
basically.
directed. Absolutely. Because they don't know that there's any other way to do it. What I've encountered in personal finance and credit is that people tend to mirror their parents' management of money.
This could be a good thing or a bad
It can
thing.
be a good thing or a bad thing. In your case, with your father, it was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And for most
Fortunate.
Americans, it's a wonderful thing. But there are some of us whose parents never learned how to manage money, and so there's not a lot of money management or credit management expertise that they can share. There's some people who truly think that everybody has bad credit because they have bad credit, their friends have bad credit, their uncles have bad credit, their parents have bad credit, and they assume credit is bad. I've heard the comment that I only use cash because credit is a terrible thing. Yeah. Now, when someone tells that to me, first and foremost, I can say, aha, I know that person has bad credit, first and foremost.
Because they can't get credit.
They can't get credit. And then in their mind, they would like to believe that, okay, credit is not a good thing. No, credit is a needed thing because it's not just, okay, credit is free money. Credit is going to dictate how much you're going to pay for a lot of things that you have to have. Do you have to have transportation?
Yes.
Well, it's going to dictate it's going to dictate the type of car you could purchase. Yeah. Do you need a roof over your head?
Yes.
It's going to dictate where that roof is going to be and what that roof is going to look like.
And even to rent, you have to have good credit.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
pretty important.
And so if you don't have good credit, then you're left with places that don't check credit. And what places don't check credit?
Yeah, could be scary.
Scary. More than likely it is
scary.
going to be scary. And I'm quite sure you're not going to pay below market for scary. You're going to pay above market for scary.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay more
money
that
you can't
for
afford.
something that is not what you desire. So credit is so very important. And I want to applaud you, Tina. I mean, the fact that you are having this conversation with your kids now, and to get back to your original question, it's all about having the conversation. It's all about having that open and honest conversation. my first conversation about credit happened when I was a sophomore in college. A gentleman that I worked with, I was at IBM working, and a gentleman who I reported to for about a year sat me down and he said, Sherrod, and I just got my first credit card from Macy's.
Oh, Macy's.
And I was excited about it, and I told him about I gotten this new credit card, and he sat me down and he said, Sherrod, in America, if you pay your bills as agreed, you can have anything you want. And at the time, I really didn't understand how powerful that statement was. But I believed it, and I'm like, okay. But as life went on, I began to realize just how spot on he truly was. If you pay your bills as agreed, you're offered more credit, and then you get better rates at the things that you have to have. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's about going out and getting as much credit and using it as possible. That is not what I'm suggesting. But what I'm suggesting is managing your finances appropriately so you gain access to that credit. So if and when you need it or want to use it, it's there. It's there. And if you have creditors, and you're paying them as agreed and you're using it discerningly, what will happen is that they will offer you more. So you don't have to go out and apply for it. They'll offer you more. So it's pretty...
You're pre-approved.
You're pre-approved, absolutely. Or we just increase your credit limit. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't ask for a limit increase. What am I going to do with $30,000 on this particular card? It happens when you manage your finances appropriately. Well, Tina, we had a great time, and I could talk to you about this stuff all day, every day, but we're going to wrap this particular segment up. I want to thank you all for joining us today on The Truth About Credit. We had a really interesting conversation today, focusing on how do we manage the credit relationships for our children. And so, Tina, thank you for your questions and the stimulating conversation. And again, thank you for joining us today at The Truth About Credit, where we explore and demystify credit, and where we show you it's not how much money you have, it's how much money you have access to. Have a wonderful day.